You know, the transmission guys out there, this is second hat to you guys. I have to, match the parts up. I also have hit or miss luck getting that little E-clip back on after getting this. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Maverick Mods. Working on the Dakota again this week. For those of you who watched last week, the transmission in my shop truck went kaboom. Basically lost second gear. Got it in the shop, finally got it torn apart, and discovered the kickdown band was essentially worn out completely. The rest of the internals really not in bad shape, but the biggie was the 2-3 shift valve was stuck in the valve body, very rough. So found out what went wrong, pretty much discovered why it went wrong, but I didn't quite finish with the disassembly and inspection. So let's pick up there. So grab your popcorn, let's get started. Well, guys, I know last time I kind of short-circuited the whole disassembly and inspection process. So I've got the intermediate shaft cleaned up, polished, inspected. We'll look at that here in a minute. Sun shell, planetaries, thrust washers, and we'll just go through and kind of look at them real quick and just see what you have to look at. So again, I went ahead, I just used some Scotch-Brite on the bushing surfaces just to clean them up. They cleaned up really nice. You kind of looking in here at your teeth, you just want to feel for wear, and that feels good. Everything feels good here. You're just kind of feeling for the teeth being worn. Same thing down here. When you look at your planetaries, of course, you're looking at your ring gear here. You want to look down in here in the teeth here and kind of feel for any ridges where the planetary, the teeth might have, kind of worn grooves in them. And same thing on the planetaries themselves. Both of these are 4-pinion planets. They make 5s, mainly for the diesel applications, high horsepower applications. I'm not building that kind of transmission, or I should say rebuilding that kind of transmission. And really all you're looking for is you want to check your pinion gears themselves. I guess, would that be pinion gears, planetary, whatever these things are. Just check them for wear, wobble. You want to look, of course, this is aluminum, but if you had, one of your pins loose or something, or if any of these planetaries had overheated, you might see a, bluing or discoloration here. So those look good. Same thing on the other planetary, same thing, 4-pinion planet. All of the gears feel nice and smooth. I can reuse these. I think they're looking pretty good. Thrust washers, I've got all new thrust washers. These are showing a little bit of wear. This one's actually not bad in the grand scheme of things. I've got a new one anyway. And same thing, this one's actually in good shape. And I've just got some thrust washers, another, like I said, a little bit of wear, but like I said, new ones, it never hurts. All right, and sun shell. So we do want to check your sun shell, look for along the edges here. You want to see if you've got any grooves cut where the teeth from the, that would be the forward drum, fit into here. Just want to check these, and they feel good. And check the teeth on your sun gear. Same thing, you're looking for wear on the sun gear. Did the anything kind of wear a groove into the teeth? Same thing on the back side. And it all feels pretty good. So I think this portion of it can go back together without having to worry about replacing too much. All right, one last thing we can look at. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail and in-depth on this because there are so many other channels out there that are better at this than I am. But let's take one of the drums apart, at least get the piston out. This one has got what's called a wavy washer. There's a wave, there we go. Okay. So some of the other drums will actually have a set of springs that compresses down and holds the piston in with a little bit more pressure. This one doesn't, but basically it's got a wavy washer in here, and then it's got this. It's actually got a, come on, and a spacer. Okay. Then this is actually the spring that holds the piston back, or at least releases the pressure on the clutch pack. And so in this case, we're going to drop the drum down here, set it off to the side. Now we've got a piston inside of here. I might be able to get it out. Yeah, I can. Okay. So the piston will come out here, and you've got a set of seals, both on the inside and the outside. And if you notice, the lip of the seal, you'd think that's backwards, but actually it's not, because the fluid is coming in this direction, so it needs to push up against the seal this way. It's all fine and dandy until you go to put this back in, then you can't put it in. Well, there's actually specific tools, or I sometimes just use a feeler gauge, a really thin one, and you just kind of slide around the lip of the seal, and that'll help pop the seal in, and you can get the piston back in. So again, all these things need to be cleaned up. I've got some sealing rings I've got to replace here. These are Teflon rings, new ones in the kit. There we go. I'll get all these parts cleaned up, and we'll move on from here. Just a quick little bit of assembly here. I've matched up my new seals for the pistons. The main thing is just remember to get them going the right direction. That's pretty much it. And obviously, piston goes in this way, so the seal lip needs to point that way. The transmission guys out there, this is second hat to you guys. I have to, match the parts up, and to put the seal on, you just work it around. This is the outside, going on the right direction. This is the inner, same thing. Let's put it in this way. There we go. All right, we'll get that installed here in just a minute. But while I'm at it, let's go ahead and put the sealing rings on my input shaft here. So first one is going to be, that's the old one. That's the new one. So this one is a locking. You see how it's got the little latches on there? It just locks together like so. So I'm going to stick that on here. Carefully work it around the seal. Squeeze it to where it locks in, just like that. There's that. Now my other sealing rings aren't locking rings, but they are kind of an interlocking ring. So we're going to slide those on, and we're good to go. So what I'm going to do is throw just a little bit of transmission fluid in the inner area of the seal here, just like that. Throw some on the outer area of the seal, like that. Do the same thing with my seal. Flip the inside. Same thing on the outside. Now I'm going to try this. I have a special set of feeler gauges that don't have a rough edge on the really thin ones. I can't find those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try, see if I can't just use a pick very carefully. Just kind of work it around the edge. The main thing is you just don't want to nick the seal. So the inner one is going to contact first. Okay, now I'm on the outer edge. I'll do the same thing. Kind of get, and just kind of work that seal around as I'm kind of pushing down. There we go. All right. So that's in. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pop my drum back on. And put my springs back in, and we can test this to make sure that it's sealing properly. So let me get my spring in. And it goes in that way. Don't get it cockeyed. There we go. We had a spacer. Now let's put our wavy spring in. Fellows, I've got the tail housing emptied out, cleaned up. I've got the bushing for the tail shaft, old one removed, new one's going in. Main thing on this one is there is a lube channel right here on the very top. You want to make sure that you get the bushing hole lined up with that lube channel. Otherwise, it's going to be a really, really short situation. This bushing does not, there's no left, right, or center. It just, as long as you line up there, there's no, upside down, right side up. So let's go ahead and just drive this bushing in. Still looks lined up. Guess I can wail on it now. I think it's seated. And no need to stake this one. Just had to swap out the end of my seal driver. Let's go ahead and put the output shaft seal in. Looks like it's in to me. I lost the audio for this next segment, but what I'm doing here is removing the direct clutch pack. There's an 800-pound spring underneath this hub, and if you don't have the proper tool, which the guys next door had one, so I borrowed that, guys, don't try that at home. I'm removing the remainder of the clutch pack here, and as soon as I pull this hub off, you will see that spring. And if you get this wrong, there's a snap ring underneath that holds that hub together, holds that spring tension. And if you get that wrong, it can do some serious damage to you. That is one hefty spring. The overdrive housing is reassembled. It only took twice because you're supposed to put the input shaft in, or at least there's a shaft you can use that aligns the bushings here with the teeth on the sun gear and other stuff back there. And the first time I put everything together, I tested it before and it worked. When I put everything together under tension, it didn't. So I had to take it apart, put it back together. At any rate, this is complete. I'm moving on to the case. And first thing I'm going to do on the case is put the rear housing here. I forget what they call that. But to help align this thing, I actually use the long valve body bolts. Just helps line this up and just lets it drop in. There's a gasket underneath. I have to look up the torque spec on this because I don't remember it off the top of my head. So I'll look that up, get this torque down, and then we'll get the piston in. And that's the piston for the overdrive. Mating surface here is clean and dry, which it is. Be sure and use non-lint-free rags if you wipe that. Now, in theory, I should be able to pick this thing up, drop it in. It is heavy though. Whoa. Yep, see, that didn't work. All right, let's wash this again, since I just got it dirty. I think I remember somewhere in the literature saying that this thrust bearing should go in, let's see, it needs to go that way. This should go here. I think I remember reading that somewhere. Now I got to wipe my hands off again. And now let's try it again. There we go. Now all I gotta do is find my bolts. Well, I went ahead and moved the transmission. Now that I got the tail shaft on, I went ahead and moved the transmission more to a vertical arrangement, which is a whole lot easier when you're trying to get clutch packs and things as you build the stack up. So I've got the low reverse drum in. I've got the band adjusted. So next up, well, I'm going to be building the stack up. We'll start off with the planetaries. Went ahead and lubed up my ring gear and the thrust washer here. So I'll go ahead and drop that in. So I'm going to do those separate. Come on. Let go. There we go. Okay. So this will come in, drop down. The reason I did that separate is this thrust washer actually is grooved. So I just want to make sure it drops in those grooves. Next up, we'll drop in the planetary itself. I've pre-lubed the gears, so we're good to go there. We'll drop that in. Now you got to work it around a little bit, let it drop into the slots there. So we're good to go there. Next up, sun shell. I know there's probably a different name for this. That's just what I've always called these things. I've got my gears lubed up, and there's a thrust washer. The thrust washer here also is lubed up. So I drop in the sun shell. Next up, we'll put the forward planetaries in and multiple pieces here. Here's the planetary. It's pre-lubed. Going to go ahead and put my thrust washer in place and my ring gear. And I'm going to create an assembly of this. Again, it's all been pre-lubed. My thrust washer is in place on the sun shell. Now I'm just going to take this assembly, drop it in. You got to kind of wiggle because you got to get the planetaries and the inner shaft lined up. We're good to go there. Okay, and I've got a snap ring that goes on here. I'll go ahead and drop that in. Make sure we're in place. And you know that you've got all your tolerances so far good because this snap ring lines up perfectly with the intermediate shaft. So I know I've got my stack correct so far. Well, guys, it's time to test my work. I'm going to test the ceiling rings in the direct, which one is this? Direct drum, forward drum, whichever one it is. Make sure we're down all the way. We are. Okay, now I should be able to add air pressure to, I believe it's that one. Yeah, it's got to be this one. Whoop. Okay. Watch his work. Other than air going around my little hole there, I don't hear any leaks around the ceiling rings or anything like that. So now we can test the other clutch. Okay, now I'm going to wiggle this in. I should hear 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm in. Now, same thing, except I'm going to go in this hole. I got to kind of hold this down because evidently there is enough air pressure that kind of would tend to blow the that one. Yep. Oh, it's definitely. Okay. See, I blew it off the ceiling ring there. Let's try this again. A little bit more pressure. Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't hear any massive air leaks, so I think we're probably pretty good. So what we've got left to do, let's go ahead and get our drums in. And then I got to put the band in, and then we can put the pump in. My little, Little thrust washer is underneath there. We're good. I should wiggle it around and get 3 clicks. One, 2, and 3. All right. Okay, I'm in. Now, one way to test this and make sure you're down all the way is you want to look in right here on the sun shell and the forward drum. And you should basically be, you don't want to be all the way down, you want to be like halfway, which I am. So I'm good. All right, so I'm going to align my holes with the holes in the bottom. Let's get this right side up. There we go. Let's drop it down. Just kind of set it there. Okay, before I go any farther, put the bolts in. All right, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to work these bolts down a little at a time, kind of in a star pattern, and just work this pump down. Not even snugging them yet. I'm just getting them all down flush. Okay, now I'm just going to start a couple of turns on each one. Just slowly work this pump down until I kind of feel it, like right there. I felt it bottom. Okay, final torque, 15 foot-pounds. I went ahead and worked on my bore in here that was really rough. And pretty simple, 800 grit sandpaper, wrap it around a screwdriver, just go in there and basically just kind of clean the bore up. Same thing on the valve itself. Now that it goes in, it's nice. Slides right in, slides right out, doesn't hang up anywhere, feels good. I think I'm okay to go back with this. I've got my valve body cleaned up. I'll go ahead and do some reassembly on this. And, well, I should say the lower valve body. And I'll just keep working on getting this back together. I'm not going to do too much of the valve body reassembly, but I figured this part would probably be apropos because this was the sticking valve. So let's just start from 1-2 shift valve, 2-3 shift valve, and 1-2 shift control valve. So I've got the valves cleaned up, brand new bucket of clean transmission fluid. So this is the 1-2 shift valve. Get in there, spring. 2-3 shift valve, the culprit, which I have, you saw me before I cleaned the bore up. Spring. And the 1-2 shift control valve and spring. All right, so I've got a cover plate, another, I forget what this valve called. There's a shuttle valve that goes in here, the plate and a little metal gasket. I'm going to take and put my bolts in to line everything up like so. Then this is going to just compress down like so. We'll break out the torque wrench. Go to 35 inch-pounds. So in theory, the little problem child valve, now I can go in here on the, I'm going to go in and just test my valves. This is the 2-3 shift valve here. It's nice and free. I don't feel it binding anymore. So hopefully problem solved. All right, guys, there's a secret to the assembly process here, the steps to the assembly process, which is a big secret. And I don't remember the secret. So I'm just going to kind of wing it. Probably going to get it wrong a time or two. Because like I said, it's been a while since I've done one of these. And I've got three parts of the valve body plus a kind of a errant separator plate that all need to sandwich together and be bolted together. And you can't bolt one to the other before you bolt all of them together. If any of that made sense. I'm not sure any of it did. But we're going to give it the old college try. That's right. I got a check ball in here that I got to put in. It's right there. I know that. I remembered that. Okay, check ball, separator plate. Going to go right there. Now I'm going to throw a couple of bolts in for alignment purposes. I think that ought to work pretty well right there. So let's start off with that. Now I'm going to take this with all my check balls and everything in it. It's going to come up here. You got to wiggle it a little bit, like so. Now, just give it a little bit of a tighten, just to hold it together without torquing it. Then I've got a series, it's easier to figure out where the short ones go. There's one there, there's one here, one here. And by default, my three medium ones must go there. Let me get these tightened and torqued down. At this point, all I've got to do is I've got to put the speed sensor in, got to put the neutral safety switch in, put the pan on, and torque converter will go in. So I'll do that, and we'll come back and look at this again when it's ready to go back in the truck. Well, if a failed transmission wasn't enough, a couple of months ago, I put some ceiling fans in the shop, and it didn't dawn on me at the time. I put them where they kind of had to go, you know, and both of them, they worked great. It didn't dawn on me at the time. It was close enough to the lift that maybe if I raised the vehicle up high enough with the hood up, that maybe be a problem. And on the Firebird, it's not. However, I made a boo-boo. This is a fan strike, a blade strike from the fan. I don't think it went, it doesn't look like it went through the clear coat. I'll probably just polish that a little bit or buff that out. But boo-boo on my part. Okay, so Mr. Fan is going to get shut off for the duration of the transmission repair on the Dakota. Here we go, guys. Oh, got to hook up the air. All right, now we're ready to go. I think from here on out, I can, use hydraulics from here. Okay, just make sure all my wires are out of the way. Sorry guys, just doing a little wiring housekeeping here. One of my little rubber snakes came, the wire popped out of it, so. All right, I got one dowel in. I got a really, really, really sharp exhaust heat shield here that's just in my way. All right, I will do a final tighten on those after I get the last two converter bolts in. I'm going to spend about an hour hooking everything back up, wrestling with that cross member and things like that. So I'll see you soon. We are buttoned up. Time for some go juice. I bought 2 gallons. Plus I've got some here. I hope that's enough. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and, I got a gallon in it. I know it's not nearly enough. We go ahead and start it up, start circulating that fluid. We got to fill the converter. We got to fill the coolers, both, and do all of that without putting too much fluid in it, because if you put too much in, then it'll actually overfill it initially and aerate the fluids. We don't want that to happen. I'm also looking underneath for any major leaks. Don't see any so far. Go ahead and go with the second gallon. I know you're waiting for the money shot. Let's go drive the truck and see if it works. Unfortunately, every time, well, the one time I managed to get out and actually get the camera going on a test drive, the audio didn't work. Still working on that. Other than that, driving around here, the traffic around here is horrendous. I still have not found a spot anywhere where I can go out and just kind of open this thing up. So I've just been puttering around town, and it works. It shifts. It doesn't leak. I kind of count that as a win. So sorry for, I'm not going to do a driving around shot. That's kind of boring because it's just, driving around town. But needless to say, I successfully rebuilt my automatic transmission. Hey, I call that a win. However, give it a week or two. If it goes kaboom again, then I'm an idiot. So give me a week or two on that, and I'll update you and make sure everything is still working right. Next week, I'll be back on the Firebird. It's going to be kind of a boring update because it's a lot of sanding. And then there's a lot more sanding. And then after that, there's even more sanding. So you get to look forward to that. I certainly appreciate everybody tuning in every week. Big thanks to all you guys. Please, what am I supposed to say? Like, share, subscribe, notify, blah, 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 blah. We'll see you guys next week. Everybody, have a great day.